Fire head down to the. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. We have a very special guest on, so I'm very excited about this for a multitude of reasons. One being I'm actually within the same organization that he is, but of course it would be super lame if I just interviewed myself for an hour. Okay, so this is Brother Faust. He is a member of the Satanic Temple, which is an organization that's getting a lot of high profile lately in the news over the last several years, actually. Excuse me, Lucien Greaves kicked off this organization, and it's the everybody thinks of Satanists as people who want to hurt you and eat your babies and all sorts of other weird stuff. And myself being a Luciferian, which is a type of Satanist, excuse me, I can tell you right now that morality and ethics is central to who we are as in our identity, because we are left to our own devices to think for ourselves. You're not going to be able to function very well without considering moral reasoning as well. So my point is that I see Christians who just depend on God to kind of do everything good for them, and they're all sorts of hypocrites. Where I see Satanists are just really solidly grounded in reasoning and doing good for themselves and other people. So for the Satanic Temple, what it exists for, generally speaking, and I'm going to let Brother Faust take the reins after this, is to accommodate and encourage social justice all across the nation. I guess it turns out there's stuff in other countries as well. They've been big on getting statues of Baphomet on a village hall property next to the Ten Commandments because of religious freedom. And they push for the things that I think that we tend to neglect nowadays constitutionally, because we just sort of chalk it up, perhaps subconsciously, that America is a sort of a Christian nation and that the Christians get to kind of do what they want. It simply isn't the case. Okay, so I'm done with my stuff. Brother Faust, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me back.
All right, good. So why don't you just quick tell us about kind of your trek towards the temple, how you found out about it, and what attracted you to it, if you want just a real quick synopsis.
Yeah. Actually, my journey to the Satanic Temple was and before I get started on anything like that, I always have to give the caveat. Because I can only speak from my personal experience as a Satanist within the Satanic Temple.
100%.
I am not Lucien Greaves. I am not Shalice Blythe. I am not Dex Desjardins. I cannot speak for the Satanic Temple as an organization. I have a minister position, but the minister position does not give me any sort of magical bureaucratic administrative leadership roles in it. Now, with that caveat out of the way, I actually found the Satanic Temple entirely by accident. My first real foray was in the Antifa movement of 2020. I was going to school out at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign at the time, and that's when I suddenly of course I saw in the news the tanks rolling through the streets. I had friends who were protesting, and they had videos and photos of the police rolling up and shooting tear gas at them and rubber bullets. We were out there, Urbana-Champaign because Urbana-Champaign is historically, Illinois has its histories with racism, like every state of the union. And Urbana-Champaign is an example of that, in with the systemic racism of the local economic educational industrial military educational machine, and the surrounding individuals. For instance, talking about how I would talk to locals, and they talked about how they had drainage issues of drains overflowing in many of the parts of because everywhere in many parts of the less impoverished parts of Urbana-Champaign, but with the necessity to allocate funds from area to area, and the necessity, the alleged, let me quote, the alleged perceived necessity to allocate funds between the correct areas, you would see things like that being neglected, and for an account of in lieu of something more just industrial for the area that could bring in more revenue for the local area on a more to use the hot button word nowadays, the more capitalist sense of things.
Sure.
And so you saw that manifest a lot with like with a lot of the political climate out there. So you saw organizations like the Anti-Racist Coalition out there, Pain to Peace, the Anarcho Rifle Association, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They were and I forgot the rest of them. Just so many like, anti-racist and like pro, just like community grassroots organizations that rose to the occasion and would host, I mean, many like active direct action on the ground protests out there. And I went out there myself to help with the protesting, because I mean it affected me, you know what I mean, as Black Lives Matter. I mean, it was like it's my people that were being massacred in the streets like dogs. And on top of that, I come from a long line of revolutionaries myself. Like my on my mom's side, my aunt and my uncle were members of the Kansas City chapter of the Black Panther Party with
Nice.
yes, with Pete O'Neill, who was the chairperson of the Kansas City chapter, who he is actually still in exile in Ghana today. When he was run out of the country as a political dissident for his role in that as a Black Panther. So shout out to Pete O'Neill. I know you probably don't see this, but we haven't forgotten you, brother. And best believe if you make it back over here, you've got some folks who are still believing the cause and are waiting for you to come back home. Moja Hoover Winsey. Naturally, the university and I had acute differences when it came to that kind of protesting, and it culminated in the necessity for me to depart the university because my role with the local anti-racist coalition left a poor taste in the mouth for just some of the more the bureaucratic individuals in the local area. And so I left, got on my motorcycle and made it back out to Missouri, where I'm originally from, and going around my old stomping ground. Kansas City was where I was born, so back in Kansas City, so my family could get me back on my feet. And I came across the Kansas City Legion of the Satanic Temple. Shout out to the folks out there, great people. And they were hosting a movie night, where like it was the Sinful Cinema is what they called it, with that wonderful alliteration. And I was only showing up there because at that point I had grown. Like I tried, you know, I mean, I'm still trying this. I'm talking about at the time, how I felt at the time. I tried, made my effort, you know, was trying to be the political revolutionary that my ancestors were. And I felt proud and fulfilled that I was willing to step up and make a decision to fight for my people, even though it left in something as detrimental as separation from a university, which up until that point, I really enjoyed being there. I was kind of disillusioned with the political thing of just kind of being like, I just wanted to exist at that point. And I would just hang out with the Satanic Temple, they're like the folks there. And I would randomly talk about my old activities with the Anarcho Rifle Association. It's just kind of like passing, because they've long since been taken out of the game, unfortunately. Rest in power. So it was more of a memory than anything, for them, like it just kind of a good story just to kind of tell us, kind of like, oh, in 2020 this, that, and the third. And eventually they're like they asked me after a while, being out there for a while, they're like, we like you, dude. It's like, why don't you join? And so I was like, sure. But
I mean, did you consider yourself a Satanist before that point?
No. Okay. The simple word is no. Like, I had dabbled in Satanism in the past, both Luciferianism and LaVeyanism. Right. But like since then, I had like what I was dabbling in up until that point was because I'm more of an agnostic than an atheist, in the sense that I'm not going to humor something that I can't see, can't prove, and can't interact with in any capacity. Right. So some unseen sky daddy that was gonna get mad at me for masturbating holds no bearing on my daily life because I haven't seen him yet. And I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran. I've been to war. I've seen people pray, and I've seen prayers get them nowhere. And then you get somebody like me who did not pray once, and I made it home.
Right.
So
it's a good point.
I never really cared much for God. Not that I didn't really not that I'm not going to say not that I disbelieve in him or anything like that, because I don't believe in any sort of anthropomorphic sky daddy.
There are a multitude of different versions of God or an eternal being than just the biblical version. I would like to let people, like, I am a theist. I have a philosophical concept that is consistent and it makes sense to me of eternal beings. It has a lot to do with mathematics and Platonic forms and all that stuff. It has nothing to do with a personal deity judging or intervening in people's lives. Very different. There's all sorts of other options. It's not just the biblical one or nothing. That's ridiculous.
All kinds of symbolism, depending on your flavor of. You can be Sartrean, the stark and like atheist form of like Sartrean or or Heidegger or Camus. Or you could go into the more kind of weird, strange quasi-theism of like Hegel or Jung and the like. But everybody has their different theories on what the absolute is. You know what I mean? Some theistic, some non-theistic, some some where where the theory is doesn't even really fucking matter in our plane of our current snapshot in time and space. But that's neither here nor there. I was a humanist without the title. I don't really like being wrapped up around titles, because when you get wrapped up around titles, you begin to place the title before your own individuality. You see that with a lot of organizations, a lot of ideologies. Does not matter who. Christians, Satanists, Republicans, communists. It does not matter who. It does not matter what their ideology is. It's easy for an individual to go back to the philosophical thing, the Hegelian sense, the subject-verb-object relationship. For a lot of people, where you should be putting yourself as the subject doing the acting, they willfully put themselves the object being acted upon by political or religious ideology.
Well said.
So I never considered myself a Satanist in the name, even though I was a Satanist in everything but name. And when I got involved with the Satanic Temple, it just simply gave me a name to refer to the kind of religious ideology that I wanted to pursue myself, or the more materialistic, how do I use my religion to affect the tangible physical here and now, and not worry about the idealist hereafter beforehand. And so it was the Mid-Missouri Legion of the Satanic Temple who are the ones who brought me in, because I moved out to Central Missouri with my siblings. And then I got involved with the Mid-Missouri Legion. And from there, it just kind of, it kind of snowballed, where like I wasn't the kind of person, I didn't join with the intent of being Satan famous. I didn't join with the intent to really, like, I didn't have some grand master nefarious supervillain plan when I came to the organization. It's just, next thing I know, I got up on the Satanic estate and just started talking about shit that's just on my head that I never really had the ability to talk about. And people liked what I had to say. And suddenly I'm offered a position in the ministry. And here I am now working with the, the majority of my energy nowadays is spent with the Satanists of Color Coalition. Because as you can see, not all Satanists wear black. You know,
this one does, but but yes, you're right.
That's funny. I am in the and because I had a conversation once of somebody asking me, like, well, tell me, brother. And there was another black man. They told me, tell me, brother, the dashiki. Like, how are you a Satanist and you wear the dashiki? To me, blacks, like, not just black, just BIPOC civil rights BIPOC civil rights is just as is distinctly 100% satanic. Because anything that has to do with BIPOC culture is going to be like, especially you think of voodoo. My family practiced voodoo. Voodoo is viewed as satanic. I mean, it's viewed as spooky. It's viewed as dark when it's just ancestor worship.
Right.
And so, if I'm going to, and so a lot of us in the satanic community are BIPOC because we view that if we're going to exalt our culture anyway and be accused of be accused of Satanism for the simple act of exalting our culture, if adversary you make us, then adversary we should become.
Right, exactly. Nice.
So I personally I spend a lot of my energy with the Satanists of Color Coalition to try and promote the fight of my people, and so that is in a way entirely separated and existing in a vacuum, entirely independent of anything that the colonial powers would view as I'm trying to think of the way of wording it. The colonial powers have a very specific structural framework of what they view of as the correct way of behaving, the correct way of approaching things, the correct way of tackling anything, whether it be like political, philosophical analysis. And Satanism sets us outside of that in a real and visceral fashion, so we can be like, no, we entirely reject the structural framework of what you tell us how we should pursue things. And if, in my case, subjectively, from my own personal experience, being unapologetically Black is not the right way of doing things, that became my Satanism. And it culminated with my eventful journey from the Anarcho Rifle Association to now trying to throw myself into the Satanists of Color Coalition and trying to help, how can I word this? Promote and bring more attention to the intersectional plight of the BIPOC community through, in this case, my satanic practice.
Right. Are you talking? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. No, that's very cool, man. And what do you get any resistance down there? I mean, I hope I'm not being too stereotypical, but a Black Satanist in Missouri sounds like a very tough thing.
A Black Satanist communist in Missouri.
There you go.
I've left Missouri for different reasons entirely. But that comes from the fact that I don't make like, and I say this, you know what I mean, humorously enough, being on an interview where my face is out there for the world to see. But I generally keep my satanic life entirely separated from like any sort of anything. People, as far as I'm aware, outside of, and of course, there's people out there who know I exist. You know, my face is out there. My face is on ministry services. My name has been attached to various various personal like essays that I've released. But outside of what the exposure, the outside of the unavoidable exposure of being involved with a public community, I pretend to say as a ghost. I don't need notoriety. I don't need fame. Like I won't let that get in the way of me trying to get my voice out there and get my point out there to bring attention to things I feel need to be talked about. But I don't come out there and be like, my name is Kristoff Samael Faust, and I am a member of the Satanic Temple, and you will acknowledge me. You know, if nobody knows who I am, fuck it. I'm not averse to that whatsoever. And so how do I get by in that? I just don't include it in my daily life.
Okay.
I don't tell anybody out in public. I keep it to myself. I'm really, really, really careful about how I navigate the public sphere. So I don't have to put up with that because Missourians, I mean, the Civil War started in that state, if that says anything.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, 100% it does. And that's really interesting because I don't vocalize it ever, but I dress it. Like I have my little
Mm.
Lucifer ring here. This is an Ankh, so that's not very explicit, but I don't know if I can see you can see it. But like I have pentagrams tattooed on
Yep.
my arms, right? And and I almost always have like t-shirt on or something like that so people can see it, but I'm not like going like, hey, see this, see this.
Mm.
In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
remember I worked with a woman for over almost 3 years until she noticed them. She's like, what the hell is that? I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I've been working for you for almost 3 years and you're just now noticing them. So kind of so like even when you do like put it out there, people really gotta find their way to it on their own.
Mm.
It's not as I'm like the local Satanist or anything like that. Not by notoriety. I mean, I am, but yeah. So this is okay. So the cool thing about the Satanic Temple that I attracted me was I'm very big on social justice and individual liberty and that kind of thing. And I get really frustrated with especially the Christian right in this country coming after people trying to impose their personal beliefs through the laws.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay, or that they have some sort of privilege because they think that somehow Christian or America is based on the Christian religion. When one of the founding fathers specifically wrote down that in no way is the Constitution based on the Christian religion. That's almost an exact quote. Okay, so I'm done with that. But like, so for example, I guess the biggest example, the highest profile example of the Satanic Temple and its efforts was a famous case, and I don't remember what state it is, so maybe you can help me here, where they went in to put up a statue of Baphomet, which is a very iconic statue that represents all duality and good and evil, blah, blah, blah. If you just type in Baphomet, you'll find it.
Arkansas.
What's that?
Arkansas.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's even awesome. Where this local city, village, whatever it was, or maybe it was the capital, put up the 10 Commandments, like this sculpture of the 10 Commandments. So the temple, the Satanic Temple, and like, all right, cool, that's fine. But then we get to put up Baphomet. And everybody's like, very Christian area, very Christian state. Probably with a lot of people believing that, again, America's based on the Bible, which it's not. But of course, they expectedly freaked out, like, oh my God, Satan's coming to get our children. Everything else. Now, why don't you go ahead and take the reins on the rest of the story, because I'm interviewing you and I keep talking.
Well, I mean, no, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. All the important parts was it was a lot of just practice what you preach. And again, I will I will stress over and over again. I'm speaking from this as a Satanic scholar, and I will give the caveat over and over again that I do not speak for the Satanic Temple in any capacity.
Right.
But I mean, this
was in the news. This was all over. We're talking about something that happened.
Right. An actual a historical event.
He was Lucian was on Tucker Carlson.
Yes, he was.
Okay. Twice. And Tucker, I only saw one of them. Tucker was just said the dumbest things, but anyway.
But but you pretty much hit all the major talking points when it was practice what you preach. If you can have the 10 Commandments up there, then we can have our satanic tenets up there as well. And naturally, as you so aptly pointed out, it was the most venomous apocrypha to ever affect the United States. The United States is born on Christian values, which for the layperson in the audience, that actually started in the 1950s after from Soviet Russia, when with communism being an inherently godless religion, they needed to construct a stronger narrative to separate God-fearing capitalist America from those godless communists. And so they put on that's when they put in the Pledge of Allegiance, "In God We Trust." Right. And when they put on the money, in God, one nation under God, and then the money, in God We Trust. Right. It happened in the 50s, actually.
Yeah.
But as you so pointed out, it's just they didn't like that.
The one thing I didn't mention is that the Satanic Temple won.
In a sense, yeah.
I thought they actually put up the statue.
I don't believe so. I think
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, and again, don't quote me on this because this is like this is something that I should keep up with, you know what I mean? But like I believe from memory off the top of my head, and again, give this caveat, challenge this, look it up, and make sure so I don't give out incorrect information.
Sure.
That's the last thing I ever want to do.
Right.
Is that what they ended up instead of allowing us to put up the Statue of Baphomet, they went ahead and just took down the 10 Commandments.
Okay, gotcha.
To just kind of be like, well, instead of including every religion, we just won't include any religion,
which is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah,
in my view, like you don't get to just choose one. Okay,
it's the preferable outcome, to be fair, you know. Like, no, it's like, let me just like take it all down. That's right. As you so aptly pointed out, the founding fathers were deists. Right. I mean, they were Freemasons, and right. I have my and no, I don't entirely agree with the Masons. You know what I mean? Not dogging on the Masons in the audience, because I got a lot of my best friends are Masons. It's not my cup of tea. No. But if there's one thing that the Masons always tried to hammer home, it's the deism. It's the separation that the separation of religion from something such as like political affairs or the like. So it was very much, you know what I mean, like in the DNA, like you said, just flat out in the DNA of the founding fathers. Right. So yeah, preferable. Take it all down. If they really want to be patriotic, be secular about it. That's the what's more patriotic than secularism?
Yeah, exactly. Because it allows for the diversity, the pluralism of religious beliefs. Yep. It's not the state picking one over the rest, and then from that oppressing the rest. Yep. Nowhere in the Constitution is the word God mentioned, not one time. In the Declaration of Independence, it says creator, not God. So I think Jefferson made it nice and vague on purpose, because creator could just be nature, just the earth, like made you, and that's it. It could be all sorts of different things. Could be aliens, who knows? But yeah, no, that's great. And I think you are right that they just took down the thing and didn't put up the Baphomet statue, unless there's somewhere else that my subconscious is considering, and it's just not coming full blown into my head. But they do these sorts of things and other things as well. I know that Lucien Greaves has just gone all over the place and very, very. Tom Hartman, who he has a progressive radio show that's all over the nation. You know who that is?
Yeah, I know Tom Hartman.
Yeah, okay. He actually mentioned the good work that the Satanic Temple is doing a couple of weeks ago, like about a month ago, and I'm like, I know some people besides myself.
We got a shout out from Tom Hartman.
You got a shout out from Tom Hartman.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it was great. And that's what triggered the thought. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I know people in the town. I should have them on the show. I'm like, I know a guy. So, because like I said, even though I'm in the temple, if I had sat here and talked to myself all day, I don't know, maybe that'd be fun. But that's very cool. How long have you been in the temple?
Oh, a little over a year, like a little under 2 years.
A little under 2 years.
It's been like I haven't been with the Satanic Temple for like there's a lot of people who've been with the Satanic Temple like the old days. I'm a fairly new. I'm a baby bat, for lack of a better word. I've done a lot in my brief moment in TST, but at the end of the day, I'm still a baby bat.
Okay, because I joined the temple, the National Temple, and then I reached out to the Illinois Temple. To join it, and then I had my interview and discussion, and the ladies were great, and I was all about it, and they let me in. But the thing I'm having difficulty with is I just have a very busy schedule, and not one time have I been able to align my schedule with the events of the Illinois chapter. And there's this very generous and charitable policy that you have to attend 3 within 3 months, or there's probably no point. And it's been over 3 months. I haven't been to one. I can't make it. So they're probably going to kick me out of that, which is fine. I'm still a member because I get it. I mean, if you're not going to participate, we don't need you. But I'm still a member of the national organization, and very excited to see what's going to happen next. Are you guys doing anything currently that's worth plugging?
No, a lot of at least on our side of things, a lot of what we're up to is just the boring logistical, like administrative side
Right.
of stuff. Because a lot of people, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing everyone that activism is mostly being out in the street. Like most activism, like most organizations, you know what I mean? Like we have like what 90% administrative bureaucratic work, you know what I mean? Zoom meetings after Zoom meetings and the like. So right now it's all of the necessary but inglorious, I mean, side of like trying to keep an organization running. But we do have coming up here on April 27th, the our second annual SatanCon. So
Yeah, that's out. Where is that? Out east?
in Boston this time.
Boston, yeah.
Yep.
Talk about that, because like I'm brand new to the temple, so I don't know much about it.
We like just the temple has been doing great things and has been really expanding and like in some of the most impressive ways imaginable. And eventually the good people and like the TST leadership decided to finally to go through with setting up our own convention. You know, I mean, you've got Comic-Con, you've got DEF CON, you know what I mean? Now you have SatanCon. And last year we did SatanCon 0 in Scottsdale, Arizona, because they would not let. Huh?
I used to live in Scottsdale.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I agree, 100%. But go ahead.
a bunch of layperson. It's a bunch of it is a bunch of rich folks. If you go down, you can smell the gentrification on the air.
Yeah.
But it was Scottsdale had a while some time ago had refused TST the ability to do an invocation at the local political arena, and so TST decided, oh, if that's the case,
oh really?
Then we're just gonna hold our convention here, and there is literally nothing you can do to stop us.
Right.
And so we had SatanCon 0 at Scottsdale, and it was a hit. And so now we're having our second annual SatanCon at Boston. And so I believe that for those who like, I mean, I want to say, and again, don't quote me on this, that there should be a way for individuals to access like maybe like a live stream of the different panels and stuff going on at SatanCon 1.
Oh, right.
So keep an eye out for that. If there's not there, don't get pissed off and be like, well, Brother Faust said. Brother Faust can only speak. Brother Faust knows.
As you mentioned before the show, you know, like the error is human, so that's how it goes. I've never met a perfect person. Anyway, no, never. That's very cool. And that, do you have to be a member of the temple to go to that?
You got to buy a ticket. I don't like, but like all the
you don't have to be a member.
Okay. All the tickets are sold out now, so it's.
Oh, what? Come on, dude.
Yeah, no,
I would have gone. That sucks.
It was unfortunately there's only a finite amount of room that we can have it in that.
I have a press pass. Can I use that? Like, hey, press pass, press.
Just hit him with the fifth element, multi-pass.
Multi-pass. Yeah, she knows it's a multi. That's awesome. So I'm assuming you're going to this one as well.
Yep, that is correct.
So, like, what do you have? Like, do different, like, you know, you're a minister in the temple in Missouri. Do you have some sort of specific role at the convention? Do you have a booth where you talk about things? Or does everybody just kind of walk around and hang out?
I will be helping out with booths, and I will be helping out with panels and the like there. But no, there's nothing special solely like Brother Faust. You know, it's more just whatever my assistance is needed, and I offer it.
Do people bring so there's booths? Do people bring like satanic wares to sell and stuff like that? I mean, is there merchandise or like is there entertainment? Are there lectures? I mean, how does it go?
Yeah, I mean, people have their booths. I mean, so some people will be selling stuff. Some people will just be promoting stuff. There'll be we will have panels and like where everybody will talk about. We'll have like separate kind of like breakout rooms you get at like oftentimes. If someone's been to like more of and I hate to put it this way, but it's the only way I know how to put it, just from my past experience with like the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and university.
No, I get
If
it. Yeah.
anybody's been to like academic kind of like conventions, like what Phi Theta Kappa has with like Catalyst, it's like you have all these different like places, these different panels you'd go to where people would have different topics they would discuss, whether it would be emotional intelligence or the science of memory and recall. And we have like similar stuff at like SatanCon, BIPOC related issues, sobriety related issues. So we will have breakout rooms and we will have various different rituals there. We'll have various different. It's all in all a good time. There will be a lot going on, and I can't possibly cover all of it in the 30 minutes we have left for the show.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. Now I'm lamenting even more that I didn't, because I heard about it before and I just didn't do anything about it, because that sounds very cool. Yeah, I mean, I have a philosophy degree, and I've been to American Philosophical Association conventions, and same thing, like they kind of like rent out a hotel, if you will, and like, you know, in this room, they're going to, this PhD in philosophy is going to talk about phenomenology, and this guy over here is going to talk about monotheism or whatever, monism, and that, you know, it was awesome. It was, you know, for a philosopher, it was awesome. So I could see this being right up my alley, and maybe I need to talk to the Illinois chapter to see if we can get something going on here. I don't know. I don't know if is it like the Olympics, like you like 4 years in advance, you got to kind of put your name in the hat, and whoever gets picked gets to have the location.
From my personal like observations, we're learning as we go. Yeah, I mean, it's like, like you said yourself, nobody's perfect, and an organization is perfect. We're not magically stepping out of like the proverbial womb. Like, we are the perfect organization, and we have everything figured out. Everybody in the organization is human, and so the organization itself is subject to all the different learning growing pains of human growing pains that come with something, especially as ambitious as SatanCon. Like, I remember when I first heard about SatanCon. I mean, they kept it so tight-lipped from even like the satanic community, that like by the time they released information that, hey, we're having a SatanCon, like a lot of us were like, whoa, like so it's the chances like this. I mean, the last SatanCon was one way. I fully expect this next SatanCon to be entirely different than the last one. Awesome. And future SatanCons, as we continue to learn and grow, to continue to be different.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. I'm very excited for that. Let me ask you this though. As you talk about like the larger satanic community, there are nowadays, you know, because of the internet, probably just 8 bajillion different satanic organizations in the world.
Oh yeah.
Or at least left-hand path, or, you know, some atheists, some theists, some kind of not caring. I was a member of, I mean, I have my card carrying member, the Church of Satan, which is it's a non-active, like I got it just to get it kind of thing, you know, and but I was an active member of the Temple of Set back in the 90s, and that's a very theistic, satanic temple. Have you gotten any pushback from any of these, like, hey, what are you doing about social justice? This is, you know, we don't do that, you know.
From most of what I've seen on, from my personal experience of what I've seen online, that's exactly usually what a lot of them say. It's like a lot of people, it's like, it's the there's a lot of talk of like different like LaVeyans who like, and I'm saying some LaVeyans because Satanism is not a monolith, you know what I mean? And so LaVeyanism itself is also not a monolith, you know what I mean? Right. Not all, given the very individualistic nature of LaVeyanism, your chances are there is no solid, like, contemporary, just LaVeyan kind of community. But a lot of the LaVeyans themselves, some of them view because of that lack of LaVeyan community, view the idea of a satanic community as an oxymoron. Like they view it as something like it's like, this is stupid. Satanism is supposed to be an individualistic religion. What the hell are you guys doing together? I've heard some people accuse us of being dangerous, of bringing too much attention to the satanic community, and as such opening up kind of like a proverbial Pandora's box of giving maybe some self-avowed warriors of God out there the green light of what they feel might be the green light to come out and commit an act of violence to protect their fragile
Sure.
theistic ideas from something that just makes them so inherently uncomfortable. And like you said yourself, you get a lot of people that just don't give a fuck either way. And then you get some who are just really, you get some who are like really, some are curious about it. And you get some who are, I've met some who are actually just straight up supportive of it. Like, might not be themselves, they themselves might not be a TST. We don't really, as far as I'm aware, we don't really, outside of rationalist Satanism, romantic Satanism, we don't have a specific like TST Satanism that set us apart of like Levianism or like Sadism or the like. But like, there are, I have seen some of like the Levians and like the Levianists and the Temples of Set members who have been, you know, like supportive of us. So
yeah, sure. I remember.
Yes. But
I remember in the Temple of Set, there were people who were very big into politics and social justice and economic justice. No, very big, and a lot of them were like, "No, I don't care," you know. Whatever, let the world burn. You know.
I mean, you got to think about it. The dude who started the Temple of Set was a fucking U.S. military intelligence officer. By their very existence, they are politics. You know what I mean? So they're gonna have some.
Michael Aquino, Dr. Michael Aquino, he has a PhD in political science. Yeah, he was in PSYOPs in the Army, and he was like a lieutenant colonel or something like that. So he knows, which was one of the things that was cool about it, because he knows how to, like, when it comes to like ritual magic and psychodrama and stuff like that, he knows how that shit works. You know,
he was probably a conservative's worst nightmare because he was trained by the government to do brainwashing shit.
Right. And then he opens up a satanic organization, and then the government was watching him for a while too because of that overlap. Oh, absolutely. Fascinating fella. He's got some books out now. Actually, he's very, very intelligent man. I mean, if you're interested in anything about that sort of stuff, I would encourage reading some of his stuff. But anyway,
I just want to see his FOIA papers.
FOIA, Freedom of Information Act.
Yep. I just want to see his FOIA papers. I want to see how many fucking documents they've got on that man.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. Yeah, you're right. That's got to be like a room full. So, okay. Talk about your personal philosophies and stuff, and how you know, because again, like going back to like the nebulous, identity of Satanism, and like, you know, to some people it means this, and to some people it means like the exact opposite, you know, kind of thing, but it has the same name. That might confuse some people. So like, I know Satanists that there's this alignment of individualism with like capitalism. For some reason, they put those two together. I never got it, but okay. In fact, I think that socialism is far more pro-individual than anything else. But okay. Talk about, because you mentioned being a communist or a socialist of some sort. Can you kind of put it all together for us?
Yes.
Good.
If you'll give me 5 seconds, though, I need to plug in my device because I'm at 5%. I know this is probably something I should have done prior to the.
That's again, you know, we're all imperfect. I'm gonna open up the blinds here.
There we go. All right, magical. Now that I have so aptly made a fool out of myself on a public platform.
Dude, are you kidding me? I've had you know.
But my personal satanic philosophy, oh man, are you talking about the political aspect or my religious aspect of it?
Well, I guess more of the political, but like how you kind of mix together the or connect it all in any way, the communist part with the satanic part, however you kind of do it personally.
For me, the satanic part comes into, with like the communism aspect of it, comes into the fact that communism is already going to go back to the whole thing about like, I mean, with BIPOC, about having to like trying to exalt my personal culture, such as like voodoo. Even from a non-theistic sense, it's still going to be accused of Satanism. You get, I mean, commie Satanist is like the most, like, it's like the oldest trope in the far right kind of like mudslinging and libel and slander campaign of just accusing anybody and everybody who disagrees with them of being a commie, and being a Satanist. And so for me, the Satanism is a way of being like, well, I've already rejected your God and every single bit of like morality that you, of alleged subjective morality that the conservative right was just to impose upon me. And so they have like, so being a communist is just, it's not that big of a leap. And so even though I was a communist before I was a Satanist, it just serves as a way to kind of set the scene for me. It's a way of making a statement, of letting the the conservative right know it's like, I have fully rejected your morality, your perception, your phenomenological experience on its most foundational level in every possible fashion. And so my communism mixed with my Satanism is a combined twofold sword to, and even though I might not believe in God, they fully believe in God. And so to me, it's a twofold weapon to, in fact, kill their God.
I like
Even
that.
in the proverbial sense, you know what I mean? Killing their peace of mind, killing their grip, you know what I mean? Killing their control, killing their ability to harken back. And it's just like, it's always like, they always have to, to harken back and invoke an idealist concept, a nebulous idealist concept of like to justify their behavior, their actions, or oftentimes their lack of action in the face of very real very real injustice. It's God's will that this happened to those poor people, kind of shit. So yeah, it's just two sides of the same. It's just two sides of the same deicidal coin to me.
Deicidal, I like that. Yeah, I should show you this tattoo as well. It's a sword with Jesus' crown of thorns on it and blood dripping everywhere. And
Fucking
on
A,
top,
okay.
it's a quote from a heavy metal song. "To the blood on your sword is the blood of a king."
Please tell me it's from the death metal band Deicide too.
It's not. It's from a heavy metal band called Manowar. But no, yeah. So, but very cool. But by communist, what do you mean? I mean, just sort of like, are you using that word generally? I mean, are you a
Yeah.
Marxist? Are you a Trotsky? I mean, there's all sorts of divisions.
I
know you don't like labels, so maybe that's why.
Yes, and I can't remember, and if we talked about this before the show or
We
during
did.
the show.
Oh no, we talked about it the last time I had you on my different show.
Okay. Where I don't really like labels. Okay. To go back to the philosophical, phenomenological kind of standpoint. Anybody who's read like Hegel and Aristotle and like even like Marx and Sartre and Heidegger and those existentialist philosophers, like, or the latter of the existentialist philosophers, the former weren't. I mean,
right.
Because I know there's some philosopher in the audience right now is being like, "Hold on, buddy. Yeah, you're right.
Aristotle was not an existentialist."
Yeah. But they talk a lot about the subject verb object relationship, which in my opinion is like, it goes into a lot of my philosophy, my life philosophy behind Satanism, outside of my political philosophy of I am my own God. I am the subject of my existence. I mean, nothing acts upon me. I act upon something. I act upon the tool. Communism is my tool. Satanism is my tool. I am not prostrate before it. It is prostrate before me.
Nice.
And so when you put yourself in a label, you run the risk of surrendering your own personal identity to an ideal, to an inflexible, immutable, unfeeling, uncaring ideal, which is tantamount to autonomous, it's like suiciding your autonomy, you know, surrendering.
That's exactly what it is.
And you see, and communists are just as prone to that as anybody else. It's a human thing. It does not matter what religion, political structure, where you come from. Humans, like, oftentimes when they find themselves in a cause that they finally feel like sees them and finally feel like hears them, they'll throw themselves into it wholly and fully. And you oftentimes get people like in the you see like in like the leftist field. I know there's going to be some leftists in the audience who are going to lose their shit about me saying it, but you get some who they just get so wound up around the theory. Where I fancy myself as being more in line with Marxist-Leninist ideologies as far as the political and philosophical framework go.
Right.
But I love Max Stirner. The Ego in His Own is a great book because I'm sorry, I will exalt the community, but I will not sacrifice an individual for like for to impose what I because to I follow the realm of thought. You know, I mean, not quite solipsism, but it's like, how do I impose my subjective interpretation of reality upon somebody else? When you get a lot of Marxist-Leninists who will completely miss the point of like the liberating philosophy behind like a lot of communist and Marxist theory, and will turn it on its head and view it as a way and view any sort of like remotely anarchist ideologies as some sort of threat to some greater communist hegemony. And I think it's Bobby Seale, co-founder of the Black Panther Party, who would talk about how like he would not like, and I'm quoting him here. I'm paraphrasing him here. You can look up the Bobby Seale interview, and I believe it's on the Afro-Marxist YouTube channel. I believe it's off the old show Real Talk or like or something along those lines. He was older. If you look up the video, it was an older Bobby Seale. I mean, long after the Black Panther Party had unfortunately dissolved from COINTELPRO. But he was criticizing Huey Newton and Huey Newton is my personal hero. So let me with that caveat. But Huey Newton was just so wound up around the theory of like communism that he what is it? What's the saying? Forgive me if I'm using this saying like incorrectly, but don't they say some of the lines of like somebody not seeing the forest for the trees or something along those lines of just being like
100%.
lost in.
I think what you're trying to say is you don't see the trees amongst the forest.
Yeah, there it is.
You don't see you don't see individuals. You just see a mass of whatever.
There it is.
Right.
And Bobby Seale was the one who said, why would I buy into some Eurocentric linear ideology and try to shoehorn some sort of like theoretical 1800s white man's book into my Black experience? It's not going to work that way. And this is still acknowledging that Marxism and Marxism-Leninism specifically has been the single like most like just powerful political tool that Black America has been able to use to try to regain our autonomy in the like of you get of pretty much like every major Black political group and like political who has ever pushed for like community service, from the Nation of Islam to the Black Panther Party to Jama'ah, have all had some sort of Marxist-Leninist, the Republic of Africa have all had some kind of like Marxist-Leninist ideals attached to them, but still acknowledging the fact that we can't force some book written in the late 1800s by a white man across the seas and just think like, well, this is our identity. Because no, I'm not a communist with Black tendencies. I'm a Black man who happens to be a communist.
Right.
So that's how probably like it seems kind of long-winded, but it just seems like to really specify that yes, I believe in the principles, the general theoretical foundational principles that Marxism-Leninism lays out, but I will not sacrifice my individuality or my cultural identity to fit into some cool kids club. And
well said.
Simpler and more human, like and more less pompous and very academic terms, just less pompous terminology.
It's one of the most important central elements of individualism, or just being an individual. I shouldn't say individualism, is your ability to opt out. when you say, like, I'm going to participate in this group, in this collective freely, I'm going to associate with you, but all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I don't like this anymore, I'm out. You know, that's a very important thing to do. There's no such thing as an individual without a world. I mean, you have other people to contend with.
Yep.
You know, we each enter into allegiances and alliances all the time, and that's perfectly acceptable as long as you're free to enter it and free to exit it. That is very important, because so that you can keep at the end of the day, you have to answer to your own conscience, your own self, and then that's a good thing to know. I remember when I was being interviewed to join the Illinois chapter, something like the question was something like, you know, what's your, you know, out of all of our, you know, principles or whatever, which one do you kind of see as the best one, or the one you like the most? And mine was that one's body is inviolable and subject to your will alone, period. Okay.
Full stop.
Yeah. That's why, like, things like this, you know, this overthrowing of Roe versus Wade and everybody imposing their crap on women everywhere. But fuck you. Fuck you. My body, my business. Go fuck yourself. If I want to douse it in gasoline and set it on fire, I will. You can fuck yourself. Anyway, so I don't recommend doing that, but I'm just saying this is mine.
But like, even outside of like the simple, like outside of like the more like kind of like personal, like subjective, like experiential, just like concepts around like just making sure you hold on to your own personal identity and don't give up your own personal like self. My partner has had to point out several times that when you get too wound up around something as just like impersonal and immutable as like any sort of political theory, where you get so just lost in like the like she is very much Bobby Seale, whereas I'm very much Huey Newton.
Okay.
It's like where like oftentimes the you lose track of like what it is you're actually doing and what actually makes sense to be because then you start to like force like what you feel like everything should be. You try to force like the world to fit a narrative what you think everything should be because the books say it should be. Or like one of my personal favorite lines out of any book, like if anybody hasn't read it yet, I highly recommend reading Isaac Asimov's The Foundation. Ooh. There's one chapter out of Isaac Asimov's Foundation where they're talking about like trying to, like, it's an offhanded commentary which has nothing to do with the overall narrative, but they talk about how they lost nobody knows where humanity started, like they lost Earth pretty much. Okay. And one of like the nobles was like, they're like one of the individuals was like, well, they think it might be in the Sirius system. Has anybody ever gone to the Sirius system and actually try to look for humanity's birthplace? And the noble says, why would we do that when smarter people have already written about it?
Right. Oh, that's profound, right? That's very cool. I have to end it there. I didn't realize that it's already like 5 to 8, and I got a radio. I'm interviewing an industrial metal band from LA at my radio studio, which I got to drive to.
Damn.
So, but that flew by. Now it's 7:56. That flew by, dude. Thank you so much, Brother Faust, for coming on the show. Great conversation as always. Keep it up, man, and let's stay in touch. And I don't know, Boston. I don't know. I'm thinking press pass right here for Boston. Get me in there. But anyway, yeah, for sure. I mean, we're friends on Facebook, so we see each other posts all the time. So that's great. So let's stay in touch. Thank you so much and keep it up, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. Till next time, be good, be green. All right. See you later. There's a delay, so don't